Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're both really happy to be here today to have heard all those interesting things that researchers are doing to promote their research. So often it seems that these strategies are often really worth it, and the outcomes are often beyond what the initial outlay was. So it's fantastic. So in light of what we've been hearing today, is that coming on the screen? Yes, excellent. Michelle and I are going to talk to you a little bit more about social media and how it can work in a research environment. So in my part of the presentation, I'm going to try and do two things. So the first part is to provide a snapshot of workshops that I give to early career researchers. I've been increasingly asked to give presentations to researchers where they're starting to want to dip their toes into what social media can potentially offer to them as they go forward into their careers. And so the second part of that is to synthesize a little bit about what we've actually looked at today. So we've heard a lot of different strategies, so hopefully as part of my presentation we'll also look at a little bit of that. So traditionally the promotion of research has happened around the scholarly outputs. So we're looking at the scholarly presentation of your work in the output form, and also the citing publications. But what's often missed here is the really interesting work that goes on before the output, and also what may actually happen afterwards beyond the citation part. So we're missing all this type of grey area here. I feel that the grey area is often what gets covered in conferences. Often when you're meeting your colleagues in conferences and discussing your work as you're developing it into perhaps a research output, this may be where you're starting to discuss some of this grey area. But I want to also suggest that this is something what social media can also do. So it can also plug you into not only just the people that are listening to your presentation in the room, but also maybe the people that are listening to presentations in other rooms at conferences, but also people that are not at conferences, at the conference that you're at, and also some of the unanticipated audiences that you might have. So this is what I want to say that social media can also do. Researchers also, as we've heard today, have a lot of output beyond traditional research scholarly output. So we've got policy documents, blog posts, tweets, conference papers that may not get written up into a journal article, lots of different things. And often these aren't connected very well together. So to present a full, complete picture of what a researcher is. So again, I want to present that social media is something that can help this as well, connect all these research and output dots. So as mentioned, there's lots of different platforms for you to choose from. Some you may already use, but some you may not have heard of. There's some really interesting possibilities with all of them. For example, I know of a health researcher who uses Pinterest. She's interested in healthy eating and healthy nutritional habits. She posts recipes and pictures of good eating onto Pinterest. So it's a really interesting way of using Pinterest. But you might find that you only need to use one, and maybe that's Twitter. It's really up to you and what you want to get from your social media, verging into social media. So what can social media do for researchers? So we've heard a lot about what social media can do. So obviously it can help you connect and build your networks. So I think this is also beyond what your email list may already be. So it's connecting you to other researchers in your field, perhaps earlier career researchers that are emerging that really might be taking on some of the topics that you're interested in. So unknown and known connections. I think something that's really interesting with social media is that it can really minimise the geographic distance that we often can struggle with in Australia. So you can be having a conversation with someone in America or someone in Europe in real time, and distance is suddenly not an issue so much anymore. You can also use it to promote your research and provide links to your output, but also to your research as you go, so research in action. You can use it to keep up to date with things happening in your field. So for example, you can participate in conferences by finding and following and using designated conference hashtags. The great thing with that is you don't even have to be in the conference to start participating with people in conferences. So for whatever reason, maybe you couldn't attend a conference, you can actually start participating in those conferences when you're not there. So a really interesting way of how social media can work. So I just wanted to provide an example. So we've heard a lot of examples already about social media use, but this is someone that I've found. This is someone named Melissa Terra. She's an academic in the Department of Information Studies at University College London. She's very interested in social media, and so she has a blog and she tweets about her research. And as a result of her working in social media as well, she's also really interested in what her impact is in social media. So trying to see whether her strategy is actually working for her. So she's done a little bit of analysis, and as a result, she's found that 7 of the 10 most downloaded papers from her department were hers. And that's not saying anything about the research quality, it's just what it is, that's what's happened. She's further analysed it to have a look at what happened to all those 10 papers. And as you can see, there were huge spikes of downloads from her institution's repository. That's where she uploads her papers. So you can see that there was huge downloads from her repository on the times that she tweeted. So her most downloaded paper was downloaded over 1,000 times from the repository. Coincidentally, that same paper she's also put into a journal. It was downloaded 376 times on that same year from that journal. Incidentally, that was the highest download of any paper from that journal for that year. So you can see the difference, but just as having something behind a paywall and also something available open access through a repository like eScholarship. So a little bit about what a social media strategy might look like. So this is attempting a little bit of maybe orienting some people here today who might want to start using social media. So it's taking a strategy that Melissa and Deborah use, and it's quite common within academia to use this type of strategy. So using a blog and a tweet to link your research. So we can see here we're starting to link scholarly outputs which may be in e-repository, but also some non-scholarly outputs. So things that are written up in, have audiences that maybe not necessarily scholarly, maybe just people that are interested in areas, so like in the conversation, for example. Moving on, we can also have a little bit of a closer look at how Twitter might work for someone. So this is about how you can get Twitter to work for you and put your research or your types of questions out there in front of the view of scholars that you want to interact with you, or so you can start working with people. So here we've got usernames, which are ways of being able to plug into people that you particularly want to interact with. You can also use hashtags that help you build communities around topics. So for example, you might be able to use a hashtag directory to find hashtags that are common within a discipline that you are working in, and you can use that to really plug into a particular subject area. So for example, the healthcare hashtag project is something that's been set up to help people talk about health issues. So we've got conferences, diseases, all kinds of things, and it's trying to analyse the most commonly used hashtags in those areas. You can also, so this is starting to develop your strategy a little bit more beyond just tweeting and seeing how it goes, but to really start thinking about how you tweet. So what types of hashtags you use. You can also find out how frequently a hashtag is being used. Hashtags.org can help you there. So something that's really great for that is if you want to create a conference, for example, you really do want to have a unique conference hashtag. So you can use something like this to find out whether or not that hashtag is being used. And if it's unique, then you can really start using that hashtag. You can also start using some third-party applications to really streamline your social media ventures. So for example, Hootsuite is a great third-party application that works with Twitter, but also brings together a lot of your other social media things. So if you are wanting to work in different platforms, it brings together Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Blogger, lots of things. So you can really see it all in one interface. TweetDeck is another one, which allows you to follow hashtags, which Twitter doesn't let you do naturally. So you can follow hashtags and also incorporate powerful filters to really start drilling down into what you want to see. Both of them allow you to schedule tweets. So if you want to start developing a strategy where you want tweets to come out at certain times, for example, you can write a whole lot of tweets and schedule them to come out at different times. So it's about kind of strategizing or how active you want your social media to be. And so I'm going to hand over to Michelle now, who's going to give some more examples about how she works with social media with her clients.
Thanks. Hi everybody. Today I'm going to tell you about 3 things that I do in my role as a liaison librarian to help researchers to promote their research using social media. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is building a launch pad. It's really critical to have a launchpad or a base to disseminate your research from. There's no point in spruiking your work if your audience can't get hold of your papers. So I help people to make their research available through Sydney eScholarship on open access. And I know how to get the best out of the repository, so I can set people up and they can get up and running as quickly as possible. And for the same reason, I encourage people to make their work available in terms of their data as well. I've helped a number of research centres and individuals to have an open access presence. Some centres are not based on the main campus and they just need to increase their visibility, or sometimes it's just an early career researcher and they really want to put their name on the map. So that's another good reason to use it. So once they have a launchpad, we can start talking about social media. So the second thing is that I give specialised advice. So I use many of these social media tools myself. I've got 2 Twitter accounts, a blog, a Google Scholar profile, Mendeley, ResearchGate account, that sort of thing. So I'm a librarian as well, and I'm in the information business. So that means finding it, getting it to people, and making the best use of it. So I can really help researchers to get the best bang for their buck. So here are a few examples. Tagging. When tagging is done well, it can really help your research to be found in a very crowded space. So think hashtags on Twitter, or topics, or even skills on ResearchGate. The second thing is publishing. I know how traditional publishing intersects with open access and social media. So for example, I know about the huge potential that social media has for book-based disciplines that usually struggle to demonstrate impact with traditional metrics. And lastly, feedback. I show researchers how to find out if their promotion strategy is working using tools like altmetrics. I can also show researchers how to look for other non-traditional ways to demonstrate impact. So finally, here are a couple of things to consider to get you started today. Have a look at the new Research Impact Guide. There's lots of foundation knowledge here about research communication and open access. This is really brand new, so keep an eye out because this content will change as it develops. And all of the tools that we've mentioned here today, Impact Story, Altmetric, for example, these are all listed on the guide. You may be also interested in a tailored information session. So this is a great way to come up with a research promotion strategy for your team, or it may just be for yourself. So I quite often make house calls to someone's office if they need some, they want a quick chat about Google Scholar profile or maybe something a bit more elaborate. I've had a few people mention to me that they don't really want to toot their own horn, but they're happy to talk about their colleagues' work. So that might be something to consider if you're in a research centre, just to have the centre to tweet about your work rather than talking about your own work. Oops. Okay, so this is a pilot area and we're really interested in what ways we could help you to promote your research. So this is a question we have for you today as well. We'd like to continue this conversation after today, so you might like to look out for this hashtag on Twitter, or you can get in touch with us by email as well. Thanks.